costumes. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first reader. Charleen McClure is from Atlanta. By way of London. She's a graduate of Agnes Scott and Hunter College, receiving a bachelor's in English literature and a master's in teaching English to speakers of other languages, respectively. She has received fellowships from U.S. Kalaloo Creative Writing Workshop, Bona, and Cave Canem. A 2016 Pushcart nominee, she's also a Fulbright Scholar. Her work has been published in Muzzle, Mosaic, King Folks, Quarterly, and African Voices.
Hello, everyone. Is this on? I can talk.
hear you anyway.
Hello? Yeah. Okay. I mean,
There we go.
I can get loud. I need to get loud. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I'm happy to be reading with Jari and with Nicole Shante. Warming up the mic a little bit for them because they're amazing people poets. So I'm going to start off. I'm just going to read some poems. So this first piece is called Queen Bee. It's after Kara Walker. Fertility will make us mothers, moans to be seated and cropped. We chose the dusk to run the field with clouds of pollen glazed our skirts, made our bellies titillate. At dawn, they calculate abundance by the swelling. The most suffocating body is queen. Her tits, huge wooden spoon servings of piquant. Her dark halo nipples, a hive, a shack of heirlooms. Honey, when she squats low, something like the sky about her. Watch them come out. She bursts the shadows. Okay, and this next piece is called Love Hunt. If the desert is naked, it will worship no one. If I am the desert, a tarantula coils between my legs. I bring the married man to my bed because he is homeless and knows to ignore the vows I make, veiled in the dark, on my hands and knees, his body before me, posed like a church. I go too far at night, roaming dry land until the stars appear and he gazes at my teeth. I want him to spill more on me than his jaw, tusk rising in the heat. When I sleep beside him, my eyes full of sand, I dream my love a wild boar, heavy and fat, breasts trudging a forest. I wound it with my arrow, crack its thick coat of skin. I drag it home. I lug it to the table like a bride before him. I let the light say, eat it to its desert, leave its heart for no one. All right, this next piece is called My Girl, 1991. This is off of the movie. This is part of a series, but this is just one part. Synopsis. The ground layered with dead brown foliage, the boy sifts through its old dry song of dirt and dead leaves, spread like hands pressed up against the ceiling of a coffin, to find what's gone lost for the girl who lives in a funeral home, for the girl of his age who left a door open in her mother that could not be closed, the girl who talks to the dead that her father has business with, and asks the doctor to remove all the bones from her throat. Though there's no trace of them to splinter the gentle kisses she gives him beside the lake, and the last summer she'll draw on the pavement in chalk. He seeks to lift the girl's mother from the grave by removing a ring from her finger to return back to the daughter. He digs a soft petition the mud permits and finds it in the palm of her hand, though, like some good boys with 2 syllables in their names, like Trayvon or Michael or Jordan, who rub up against a hive A world loaded with chambers unseen by the naked human eye is allergic to bee stings, and hearing the dark thread of their buzzing now swings and flails and fights back as best he can. He dies, but with a gift in his hand. Okay, I'm gonna read this poem and then I'm gonna read some new shit that probably needs to be revised shit, but some new shit nonetheless. Okay, that I worked in workshops, so thank you to all the workshop peeps. I'm gonna read this before I read the new shit. Can anyone live with Eartha Kitt? I cannot control who loves me or how they do. I control my jaw. Its orchestra of bite and spit, if necessary, its holding of a man's bruised tongue. I chew. The interviewer exhumes the contents, the funeral and casket, the man waiting behind the door, suited bouquet of sealed lips. The shovel, he tells her, is for you to slip inside. You won't have your name, but you won't be alone. Her face opens, her laughter spits. She calls him a fool, her eyes narrowed to the scent of his sweat. She says, I cannot choose how I will die, but I can choose what will kill me. She lifts her shirt to breathe. She lifts her shirt to show him, to give him a name for her God, her chest arched forward for arrows. A hoe, she whispers, can give a key its purpose. Ask the right question. How do you keep warm? I keep breathing. Listen. I keep breathing. Okay, so two more, and then I'm going to open the stage to people. Thank you. Sorry, did not print my poems like I should have. Okay, so this is something I started working on in a workshop. This is called Gatekeeper. She stacks herself on the door frame as fact, a gesture of here, of permission, her clavicle taut like an arrow inside a bow. She pinches her lower lip thinking as the goats roam the yard, as the cutlass she eyes on the shoulder of a man passing slits a horizon onto the sky. Nothing leaves how it enters. The day discards night like a beetle, leaves itself hollow, dark, molten. Moonlight, her heel chalks the floors in a slow shuffle of steps that soothes her children's, housed within her house, who she measures in sets of knees and legs. Light emptied of heat, the briny broth of piss sat in the corner and grew in the pot for hours. Before the flare of sun, she seals the house in, drags the collection of urine into one wet line outside the walls, from bush to bush, the odor of a flag, a curse against nocturnal poisons dripping into dawn, invisible serpents, the chorus of glares, the fangs of ghost. Okay, this is my last little bit. This is 6 on a Thursday night, and the title comes from a Maxwell song. The man on the floor is on your ankles like ice cubes in a Brooklyn summer. They're not melting down the corners of his mouth, but water is everywhere a tongue, the pink drag of a bottom lip. You rent the dim light and deal in shadows. The hours move this way in shapes on the floor he occupies, in his suit of salt and dark. A man is on the floor, and you've seen this scene of a man pushed or fallen over, but he, the man before you, volunteers at your knees. You are going nowhere, but are running with him into yourself. Hurry. You trick the walls into thinking they were not walls, but endless flora and a door. Read the signs. A man is on the floor, and the song that plays is slowing your heart down. You don't have time. His voice has reached your hair and all the spiders have come running out the corners. The door may open at any minute and let in a world of hunters. You think you hear their feet in pairs as hooves shaking each stair as they draw closer, knocking the leaves off the wallpaper, but it isn't them. It's the bedposts, knocking like an alarm, plucking dry orange leaves into the air of this wild kingdom. August always looks like an endless flame consuming the floor, my love. But feel the cold that colors his breath. See the smoke rising from his lips. With your mouth attached to his, practice catching it and putting it back in. Thank you.